Welcome to Bleav in Colts, where Lawrence Owen and DeQuell Jackson brings you everything about the shoe.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen. Today, I have a very special guest, Brett from Bleav in Seattle, man. Hey, what's going on, Brett? How are you been doing?
Lawrence, I hate to correct you right off the bat, but it's Bleav in Seahawks, my man. All right, we all believe
it is
our team, man.
It is Bleav in Seahawks, and the issue is when I type that in, it always comes up Bleav in Seattle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Ridiculous. We're gonna have to get to the bottom of this. We're gonna have to get our crack technology department.
So I'm all I'm doing is trying to get everybody who wants to come and visit you guys and check out your podcast, an easier way of finding you rather than typing in the true name. Type in the stuff that's actually going to get it to you.
I love you, buddy. Thank you.
All right, won't you give these guys a little bit of information about you and where they can find you?
Yeah, man. So I started doing the Seahawks podcast on my own years ago. I think like 3 seasons ago. We just started putting it out there. I was talking to myself. I was trying to be like maybe a Colin Cowherd type guy. You know how he just sits there talking to himself, And so I started to go a little crazy, honestly, not having anyone else to talk to. And after about a season of doing it, jumped onto the Bleav network. The guys over there are awesome, and you see what they're building. And I mean, it's just growing exponentially. And so it was such a cool opportunity to jump on with them. And as soon as I did that, one of the suits at Bleav, actually, let's keep all the names out of it, Lawrence, but one of the suits over here at Bleav was like, I went to UFC or sorry, not UFC, USC. And he was like, have you ever heard of Lofa Tatupu? And I was like, what do you mean have I heard of Lofa Tatupu? I'm the biggest Seahawks fan in the world. I was like, of course. And through them going to USC and the connections and this and that. And I think they ran into Lofa at the Super Bowl or something that year. And anyway, long story short, the show is now also co-hosted by Lofa Tatupu, who's an all-pro linebacker for the Seahawks. A couple of Pro Bowls. He had, I think like a 6-year career, second-round draft pick. Injuries cut his career short. But, I mean, guy's an absolute stud, absolute legend. Went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers back in the day with the Hawks. So it's like now I get to do the show that I was already doing anyway and love doing, but now I get to do it with a guy that I idolized and was watching in the Super Bowl, and it's just, dude, I'm over the moon about it. We're having so much fun, and I mean, people can find us on any podcast app.
Awesome. You know what? I personally can feel you on the whole doing it by yourself thing and then getting a co-host, because I did it by myself for years, and then this off season I was like, you know what, I need someone to bounce off of, know, and I went and it just makes things so much easier, so much better for the listeners and the viewers and stuff. So, and you never run out of content, because when you're doing it by yourself, you're trying to kind of stretch things out, and when you have someone to bounce off of, things just pop up out of nowhere, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
And they start telling old locker room stories, and like I mean, for Lofa, like he's like telling stories about meeting the linebacker in the hole and like first person knowledge of like snot bubbles. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any first person knowledge of snot bubbles. He does.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was on your show yesterday, and Lofa was talking about how much he respected DeQuell, and then I had DeQuell on. We did ours 3 hours later, and he talked about his respect. He said, man, Lofa's my guy. So yeah, I mean, these guys have a ton of respect for each other, even if they've never been on the same team. You know what I mean? They still respect each other and stuff. So it's really awesome.
They got that like brothers in arms thing kind of going on, like, I mean, that's how Lofa talks about everyone who's ever played in the NFL. He always has the players back, of course, as he should. But I mean, there's just that like tight bond and brotherhood, and it's podcasting in general, not to take us too far off the rails or anything, but like, that's what's so great about it is I feel like 10 years ago, these guys, they might've been a little guarded, or who knows, or like maybe not putting themselves out there. But now that they get on these podcasts, you get these amazing stories and you get to really know these guys and stuff that like in a way that we didn't in their playing days and stuff. So it's cool for me as a host, but then also just as a listener to our own show to go back and actually listen to these guys, and the way that they break down a game is just so much different than anything you're hearing on, the motherships. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Network. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I definitely know. I've had the great opportunity to sit into some press conferences for the Colts. That the Colts are bringing out press conferences for content creators, right? Where just certain content creators can join and ask questions. And I've interviewed rookies. I've interviewed offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, the head coach Frank Reich. A bunch of guys this offseason, and it's kind of like that. Only you get to do it on someone that you watched on the field every week. Every week you can sit down and be like, you know what? I'm just curious about this. And they're instantaneously like, absolutely. Here's a great story.
It's the greatest job in the world, isn't it, Lawrence? We are so lucky, man. We're so lucky.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to jump back on the rail. Sorry, everybody that's watching and listening. We just had to get a few things off our chest real quick, but hey guys, please smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you're notified next time I go live. Don't forget, you can also share this video to your favorite social media, and please open up that description of the video. In there you find a link to my Patreon, which is only $5 a month. Get all of my content plus Patreon specific content, and of course my merch shop right here. But yeah, so this Sunday, man, 1:00 Eastern Standard Time. I think it's 4 for those of you over there in Washington.
No, 10 a.m. 10 a.m.
10 a.m. 10 a.m. I keep forgetting. It's 3 hours, and I keep bouncing back and forth. It's weird.
It's just to wake up early, have a coffee. Hopefully the Hawks don't disappoint us, and then we go about the rest of our day. Hopefully.
Hopefully. You just hope for a good game, right? Obviously we hope that our teams win, but we don't want a blowout, right? Either way. I mean, it's not good. I get you, but I mean, you'd rather win by a close margin than get blown out by a big margin, right? I mean, or vice versa.
Lawrence, do we even know what we're gonna see on Sunday, man? Like either one of our teams in the preseason barely played anyone that we recognize, right? So like, what are we gonna see on Sunday?
That's a good question, because I mean, we just got a notification literally an hour ago where Frank Reich saying Eric Fisher may be starting week 1.
Wow.
Yeah. That he's out there practicing and pushing it, so that's an amazing situation that a lot of people in the NFL didn't even think, let alone, the Carson Wentz and the Quentin Nelson, possibly starting, most like on trending towards starting. The Eric Fisher thing just dropped out of nowhere, and we're like, holy crap, but as for the Seahawks, I think that's what the listeners are here for, is to know a little bit more about the Seattle Seahawks. And see, I'm sitting here, and there's a lot of question marks with your team. But matter of fact, yesterday when I was on your show, I had looked at the depth chart on the Seattle's homepage on their depth chart, and they had only had, at the time, they only had 4 guys at wide receiver on their depth chart, and now they dropped another one, Penny, on there. But you only have 5 guys. Do you think that that's going to be adjusted? Because
okay. So honestly, we went over it on our show too. I think after you were on, because I was asking Lofa, why do we have 3 quarterbacks and 4 wide receivers? Like, what is happening? The Seahawks, I don't even remember the last time the Seahawks had 3 quarterbacks on their roster, on their 53-man active roster. Like, I think you got to go all the way back to like Matt Hasselbeck or something like that, way back with Holmgren, to find 3 quarterbacks. So I don't really know what we're doing with that. I don't know why Jake Luton is on the 53-man active roster. Russell Wilson, knock on all of the wood sitting around me right now, has never missed a game, never missed a start since his rookie year. He's like the Iron Man of the NFL right now, again, knocking on wood. So I don't really understand that move. I don't know why they don't practice squad is good enough for your third quarterback, as far as I'm concerned. So I would like to see them only carry 2 quarterbacks, and then obviously that frees up an extra spot, which could be filled by wide receivers. So to answer your question, like, honestly, I have no idea what they're doing. 5 wide receivers seems okay, but then if you have someone go down, I mean, I don't know. So it's kind of weird. Like, we obviously know about Tyler Lockett is, quick burst, like good, it finds a hole in the zone, shifty little guy. And you got DK Metcalf, who obviously looks like the Hulk out there playing wide receiver. And so what you got in those 2 guys, but much after that, like, I don't know. I think, really, maybe this answer's going on too long, but just off the top of my head, I think what we're doing is we're going to use the tight ends a lot more than we've ever done in the past. Like, we had Jimmy Graham for a few years. He set some records, obviously great player and everything, but we're going to go a lot more to tight end, I think, in this new offense from the Seahawks. I think you'll see that on Sunday. And I think that they look at guys like Gerald Everett as more of a wide receiver than a tight end. So I think while we might not have actual WRs on the roster, we have some TEs who can play WR, if you follow me.
Oh, I got you. I mean, you got 5 running backs as well, right? I mean,
I think you're gonna look, if you're on the team and you can catch, we're gonna throw you the ball and we'll call you a wide receiver. Sure.
Yeah, that's definite. You had some shockers, in my opinion, of guys that didn't get re-signed. Speaking of tight ends, you had a tight end that I was highly I liked a lot. I thought that he was underrated, and then he ends up in free agency, gets signed by somebody else this all season, and then you bring in Everett and
Hollister. Are you talking about Hollister?
Yes, I liked Jacob Hollister a lot.
Yeah, me too.
All right, and because he seemed like one of those all around tight ends, a guy that you could lean on in the run game if you needed, or pass protection, or bring him out in the flat or whatnot if a play breaks down, which, let's face it, with the offensive line that Seattle's been pushing out there the last couple years, Russell, when he's cooking, he's got to find someone to dump that ball off to, right? So,
I mean, you just hit on it right there. Like, if Colts fans are looking for a weakness for us or something to look at week 1, it's got to be the offensive line right off the bat. Russell was, I don't want to say complaining, but he was talking about the offensive line, and there was a lot about that in the offseason, about his comments and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we've talked about it at nauseum on our show. Lofa thinks, that is a bit taken out of context. Like, Russell wouldn't have said that if the guys weren't all on the same page in the locker room. So we don't really think there was much drama there, but that was definitely the national, media talk. And offensive line on offense, that's the biggest concern. And then on defense, I think it's our cornerbacks, man. I mean, if you're looking for weaknesses, but.
This video is sponsored by Newsbreak. Newsbreak is an app used over 1.5 billion times a month by people just like you to get local news via articles or videos by those who are focused on that specific area. People like myself. Just use the link in the description of this video to download it. Then search a city, state, or someone specific, like myself, Colts Law. Then make sure to follow them so you'll get all the news fresh as it comes out.
Yeah, that offensive line, man. I mean, Dwayne Brown didn't play all preseason. He was looking for a contract. They gave him an extra $2 million left tackle for this season. They readjusted his thing. They didn't give him an extension, but they gave him an extra $2 million. So he's going to suit up, but not much practice time, not much preseason time. So I don't know, man. For us, the whole key to success for the Seahawks is Russell Wilson. And, if he's not upright and able to find anyone, we saw what happened at the end of last year and everything. So it's that's the big key for us, I think, is letting Russell do his thing and then also trying to stop your passing game.
Yeah. One of the things I'm going to kind of go on with what you were talking about with your offensive line by talking about something else. The Colts 3-tech defensive tackle, DeForest Buckner, apparently played with just one hand the entire season last year because he had a broken hand and just played with it the whole year. And still, I mean, the numbers that he put up is ridiculous. Yeah. He had 31 pressures, 16 quarterback knockdowns, almost 10 sacks, 9.5 exactly at the 3-tech, and he even missed a game, due to COVID. But
Dude, he's a beast.
He's a monster. And I mean, you guys know who DeForest Buckner is. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you played against him twice a year when he was over in San Francisco, right? Uh, but now that he's back, how is your guard / center? Do you feel like that's a worry of getting, Russell seeing that pressure up the gut?
Yeah, man, more question marks. I mean, Ethan Posick, I think he's in his 5th year already out of LSU. He kind of took over. Justin Britt, they didn't re-sign him or whatever happened there with his injury, and then they didn't bring him back. So, and he was a stud, right? So they obviously thought Ethan Posick could slide in and play that, but then he's been injured all preseason again. So hasn't had much experience in the preseason. Looks like he might play. They also tried to slide Kyle Fuller in there as a center, but he's already a backup too. So you bring up, you're scaring me a little bit because I kind of forgot about our troubles at center. But yeah, that's a real point of concern. Well, I don't even know what's going to happen on Sunday. We'll have to see. But then the guards, I would say our guard play is actually a strength. Damien Lewis was a rookie last year out of LSU, and if they gave out a rookie of the year for offensive lineman, he would have won it hands down. I mean, the guy just looked like a veteran already. We talked about it a lot on our show. He just, I don't even know if he allowed any sacks. He didn't have very many penalties, which you usually see out of rookies a lot. So Damian Lewis, stud, at least at that left guard. And then, there's always like the one side of the line that's good. You know what I mean? And then there's that other side. There's always the right side for us, and we'll see what happens there. But as far as, if you're looking for someone at one of our guards, at least Damian Lewis, man, he's a stud. I think this guy's going to play like 10 plus years, and I hope we keep him for a long time, obviously. But I just think, I mean, he's, you don't want to say Steve Hutchison or anything like that because, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, you had alluded to stopping the passing game for the Colts earlier, and DeQuell yesterday brought up an important point. Carson really hasn't had a lot of practice this year, this preseason, due to injury, due to COVID, and we're missing T.Y. Hilton, due to a neck injury with his surgery. So he was thinking the Colts might lean more on trying to keep Russell off the field and use that really good offensive line that the Colts have. Right. And that running back stable where you got, Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines, Marlon Mack, who is back, really, really deep, strong run stable, trying to just run the ball down basically Seattle's throat.
Yeah.
Besides a certain 54 on your team, is there any other guys that you feel really bring a strong run stopping presence on Seattle's defense?
Well, I mean, yeah, you mentioned him right there, B Wags. Right? Bobby Wagner, one of the best to ever do it. So shout out to him. We know he'll be there. But they let KJ Wright go this time around. He was a free agent. There was questions as to whether they'd re-sign him or whatever. I mean, him and Bobby Wagner have been running mates in the linebacking core for 10 plus years now. So Seahawk fans are kind of reeling that KJ is, not going to be starting the season for us. He signed with the Raiders. So it's going to be interesting to see Bobby Wagner playing with new counterparts there. Rookie or not, he's not a rookie anymore, but Jordan Brooks was our high draft pick last year. And so he's going to be playing a lot more. We got a guy named Cody Barton playing linebacker who was kind of honestly one of the MVPs of the preseason so far. So he's been really looking good at linebacker, young guy. I think came out of Utah a couple years ago. So we got young guys and we're kind of pinning our hopes on them, like we let KJ Wright go because maybe he would want too much to come back for the 1 year or whatever. Contractually, he's getting older, whatever. So I get why they let him kind of go. And there's no animosity. He loves Seattle. I think his quote was like nothing but love. So, I mean, it's all good if these young guys then step up. Right. And that's what's got us nervous. I would say if I'm going to throw any other player names in there, I mean, we did get that contract done with Jamal Adams and we know he loves to play down in the box. You know what I mean? And really bring it. Like, I think he said he wants 12 sacks this year, but I kind of hope that it's a lot of not just going after the quarterback, but really just filling those gaps and helping out with the run, because he can bring the lumber, so to speak. But he'll be flying around out there. I'd say that's one person I'd mention.
Holy crap! 12 sacks for a strong safety. Oh my goodness,
that's what he wants. I think he had 9 last year.
Yeah,
like 4 games. So
he was also already the most blitzing safety in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
So
he might just go on his own. I don't even know if they call it.
It kind of reminds me of a quote that Darius Leonard said earlier this offseason and backed it up last week, where he's like, we want the Colts to have 40 turnovers this year. The defense to get 40 turnovers. I was like, that's a number, dude. We had like upper 20s last year and we were like top 2 in the NFL. 40, holy crap. So yeah, that kind of, I guess 12 is more realistic, but at the same for a sack for a strong safety. But yeah, you brought up a point with Jamal Adams being more of a box safety, a guy who really is in the box looking to stop the run, get after the quarterback, things of that nature. And when you have someone that's in the box as much as Jamal Adams, your free safety needs to be someone who is a really good sideline to sideline single high guy. Could you give us a little information about that position over there in Seattle?
Yeah, totally. Well, there's been drama with his position over the course of the last few weeks, actually. So Quandre Diggs, he made the NFL's top 100 list this year on NFL Network. I mean, he's a stud, but for some reason he sat out of practice all last week because I think he was trying to get in on a new deal or get his contract reworked somehow. Pete Carroll, I think the quote was, it's business, something to do with like business, get his business handled. So there's a lot of mystery as to kind of why Quandre was sitting out all last week. He's back in now, and Pete says he's full go for Sunday, but Lofa and I even don't really know kind of what was going on behind the scenes there. So again, just adds to the nerves for going into the season here. So I guess my answer is, like, if he's happy and full go and all that, I mean, he's a beast, he's a stud, he's what we want back there. And like you said, he's got to cover up some things for when Jamal goes and blitzes. So hopefully he's back and ready to do that. I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's a pro. I mean, he's a good dude and all that. So I'm sure he'll be ready to go, but it was kind of weird last week with him.
Yeah, that is a bit of a worry. I'm going to dive in to a scary pool that's called Twitter.
Yeah.
We got a couple Twitter questions that I wanted to bring up. Something that I do occasionally when I have guests on for other teams. See if any Colts fans have any questions they want answered. And guy M23 says, what are some big losses to the Seahawks that make you worried about matchups that might be, make you a little worried?
Yeah, well, I mean, right off the bat, I mentioned KJ Wright, and we can't stress it enough. The guy is a Ring of Honor player for this team, and he's played 10 years, but like, he's not that old. He's in his early 30s still. So, seeing him walk and the question marks that raises is a big concern for us. So, there's that right off the bat. But also at cornerback, man, like Shaquille Griffin left and signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was kind of like our guy we could count on out there. I don't know if he ever really he wasn't ever Richard Sherman, or it wasn't the Legion of Boom like that or anything, but he was solid, but he's gone now. And now we're trying to work in the new cornerbacks, and we got DJ Reed, who was a stud last year out there. I mean, every Seahawks fan is counting on him to have the production or even do better than he was already doing. But that other cornerback spot, huge question mark, man. I mean, we brought in Sidney Jones recently within the last week, I think even after the last preseason game. So again, like, how much time has he had to work in and learn the playbook and all that kind of stuff? He was a stud up here at UW when he played for the Huskies in college, but in the pros, like, kind of some question marks, honestly. He's a vet. He won the Super Bowl with the Eagles and stuff, but we don't really know what you're getting with him just because he hasn't been with the team that much. So I'd say our biggest question mark, and the things that have hurt with people leaving, is KJ Wright, and then whatever's happening out there at cornerback.
Okay, that's interesting. We're gonna jump to a complete opposite. Ivan Burton, thanks for the question, guy. Says, what has been the biggest area of improvement for the Seahawks this offseason?
Oh man, well, I don't know. We haven't seen it. I mean, I'm sorry to like sound like this, but I think that every fan is pulling their hair out a little bit with just anxiousness and nervousness because the Seahawks have a brand new offensive coordinator. You guys, if you're a Colts fan right now, and you're, did you hear me? We have a brand new offensive coordinator, and our starters didn't play one play in the preseason. So, I mean, like, we don't know how Russell Wilson even really looks in this offense unless you went and stood on the hill at preseason practice, because we just haven't seen it. What we've improved on, I hope we've improved on getting rid of the ball faster. I hope we've improved on protecting Russell. I hope, like I said, our secondary has improved on coming up and playing guys off the line rather than giving them a big cushion. These are all the things that Seahawks fans want to see, but we don't know if that's going to happen because, preseason, they don't game plan and you know how it is. And so you can't really get a good sense of your team. I think we've brought in some nice pieces, along the defensive line. I think one of our real strengths is the depth at defensive line that we have. But it's not a lot of big name guys, really. It's just a lot of guys who need to kind of step up and improve from last season. And we just kind of have to see if they're going to do that or not.
Well, the something that our defensive coordinator states a lot is when you're a team that is young, it's a lot to do with bringing all your guys back from the previous year so that they're one more year in the scheme, one more year understanding the players around you, things of that nature. It allows them to play faster, more instinctive, and just react rather than think. So, bringing guys back is actually a step towards the right direction. But like you said, you lost Wright, you lost your number one cornerback, so that's kind of a bit of a worry. But those other guys that are stepping in that's already been in the scheme, I think that'll help the fact that they're in it at least one more year longer. So
yeah, hopefully.
Another question, we kind of touched on it a little bit already earlier. My co-host from my other podcast, Colts Law, is Colts Loyalist asks, what is the breakdown of the Brown situation and what do you expect to see from him this week?
You're talking about Dwayne Brown?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny because going back, let's all jump into some Seahawks history, everybody. Walter Jones, Hall of Famer, right? No, his jersey's retired by the Seahawks. He's an absolute legend, right? Left tackle. He never played preseason, ever. He just didn't want to play. He didn't want to go to training camp. This is back in the day when they would like go to Eastern Washington and be at a college campus and staying in the dorms and stuff. And with Holmgren, and like he would never go to camp, and they would always be franchise tagging him and at the last minute and all that kind of stuff. And he would step in. He's a Hall of Famer. He would do his thing, of course. A lot of Seahawks fans are hoping that the same kind of thing is true with Dwayne Brown because like we've been saying, no preseason and all that stuff. And he was, wanting the new contract. And I mean, look, he's a veteran. He's been in the league forever. He's earned it. He's paid his dues. He's obviously a beast when he's out there playing. He's one of the best in the game. So I don't think there's going to be any hangovers in terms of like team drama or any like behind the scenes kind of shakeup because Pete and our general manager, John Schneider, and Dwayne, they've all said that they were in contact the entire time, that everyone was on the same page the whole time. Pete even kind of in his press conference yesterday mentioned that like they're kind of happy with the way it worked out because Dwayne didn't have to take all those reps and get beat up. And, he's a veteran guy. And Pete said like, look, he's a vet. We trust him. He's going to be fine. And I think I'm resting my hat on that as well. Like, I think this guy, I don't think he needed preseason. I think he's going to be solid. I mean, as far as up from that left tackle spot, but in terms of how, the whole offensive line gels when he hasn't been there the whole time, we're going to have to see. And my big thing is I can't have Russell getting hit. Right. So hopefully none of that stuff bleeds over, but I don't think it will. I don't think there was any real drama behind the scenes. I think this was just one of those things where everyone stayed in contact the whole time. Everyone knew what was going on, and they knew that a deal would get done eventually.
Well, if there's any positive outlook for that, that you guys that are rooting for Seattle can take out of the Indianapolis area, we don't have the defensive end guys that we had the last few years. Danico Autry is now playing for Tennessee. Justin Houston is now over in Baltimore. So we're kind of leaning heavily on our first round pick, Kwity Paye, who flashed pretty good in preseason. I think he was the highest rated pass rusher by PFF through preseason. And then a bunch of young guys for the other defensive end position between Kamoko Toure, Ben Banogu, Al-Qadim Muhammad, and some other guys that the Colts are planning on just rotating in. But it's youth. There's not a lot of experience there. There's not a lot of consistency. So we'll see how that turns out. It's a big question mark on what we'll see there. As well. So, I mean,
I think, if you're watching the game and you're looking for something to clue in on, I think if you see Russell Wilson getting rid of the ball fast and kind of going with like his first read, like finding the guy and throwing it, I think it's going to be a good day for the Seahawks. If you see Russell kind of patting the ball and going to it down his progression all the time, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to go through that, of course. But I mean, if every time he's dropping back, he's having to really look around and pat the ball and pump fake it and not throw it, it could be a long day for us. Because that's what we saw at the end of last season when he was just getting sacked a lot, not finding the open guys right away. And it'll be a long day for us. So, that's, I don't, that can clue you in, I think, early.
Well, I mean, the style of defense that he'll be facing is going to be very, very familiar to him when he goes out there, because the Colts run, a cover 2/cover 3 just zone scheme, right? And he played against that basically his whole career, practicing against it. So it'll be interesting. Obviously different players, different coaching, but similar schemes. So man, it could be a scary situation for either team. I mean, in all honesty, it just depends upon how the question marks turn out for either team. I think we're going to end up wrapping this up. I really appreciate you being here. But before we go, we did this on your show. We'll go ahead and bring it back for mine. Those that are listening, we're gonna give our predictions, and yours surprised the heck out of me. Are you going to stick with that one?
So I love taking weird predictions or just picking strange final scores, because instead of trying to nail the final score, I'm just trying to nail the result. Who wins, really, right? And then whether I think the game will be high scoring or low scoring. And then I just pick the most ridiculous numbers I can. One, because every time I try to pick real numbers, it never is even close, ever. and also, for some reason, and maybe this is just a Seahawks thing, I don't know how Colts fans feel, but the Seahawks, for some reason, always have strange scores. I don't know why. So on our show, I predicted that the Seahawks would win this game 12-8.
Yeah.
But again, it just means I think they're going to win, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, and then if I remember right, Lofa put a little bit more on. It was like 17-20 something, I think or something like that.
24-17 Seahawks, more of a traditional score, because he's boring.
I went higher. I went with a 31-28 score with Indianapolis. And probably a surprise by you, DeQuell went even higher.
Really?
He thought that this was going to be a very high scoring game. He said 35-31.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like I told you on our show, I want that to happen because I want to have fun, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes these week one matchups, man, who knows? And also fans are back, right? So that should favor the defenses in this, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the 12th man.
Okay.
Yeah, right. You're talking about the 12th man. Now Seattle is known for their 12th man, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that's a big deal. But thank God this is in India, not in Seattle.
I know, but you guys get loud there too, and that's what I mean. Like, I think, don't you guys think, just in a general sense, for the NFL and football in general, even college football, like, we saw a lot higher scores last year because maybe the offense is, it was quiet in the stadiums, there was no one there or whatever. I kind of think we're going to see scoring down this year in the NFL, whereas we saw it up last year.
That's a good point. And, last year you were able to pump in crowd noise a little bit, but they set a certain decibel that some stadiums just blow completely out of the water, right?
Oh, well, we've been pumping in crowd noise for years.
Well, so have the Colts, apparently. I mean, that's how things work apparently in the NFL. That if your fans are loud, then it's fake. We understand. We understand. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you being here so much. Take a moment, let people know where they can find you and your podcast.
Yeah, so it's Bleav in Seahawks on any podcast app, any app you guys use, Bleav in Seahawks. And then you can hit us up on any social media, just the same thing, at Bleav in Seahawks, BLEAV in Seahawks.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. Good luck this Sunday, but not too much luck, my guy.
Right. The feeling is mutual.
I bet it is. All right, and until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen with Brett. And as usual, until next time, have a good one.